Today, I wanted to talk about Rhydon. Not only is it a cool Pokemon from the original 151, but it just had a spectacular showing at the Milwauke Regional. It was piloted by Michael Zhang, who finished off in the top 20 right here. You got top 32 with Rhydon, and honestly, Rhydon just did a really good job to place this high. Diving into Michael's team here, it's all over the place here. It's really wild. It's really cool. He's got Toxapex, Rhydon, Ho-Oh, Walking Wake, Assault Vested Corydon, and Comfey. Not a lot of stuff that you typically see here. Like, you don't typically see Rhydon of all things, but Rhydon, it's definitely got a really spicy niche option here, and it is great for dealing with Miraidon here, considering that it has the Lightningrod ability, so it can direct away single target electric type attacks from its partners, and because it's naturally immune to it thanks to Lightningrod as well, Rhydon just doesn't care, even if it terrestrializes away from its ground typing here. So if it turns into a fairy type, like what Michael Zhang had on this particular Rhydon, now Miraidon can't hit it with its two stab options right here. It's going to become immune to dragon types by becoming a fairy type, and on top of that, the lightning rod just gives it natural immunity to electric type attacks in general. And another notable thing to mention too is Rhydon, especially with that Tera Fairy, can also wall out Raging Bolt as well, so you don't have to worry about Thunderclap, and that can kind of open things up for water type Pokemon. Now, Michael had Toxapex here as well, which Toxapex is an interesting Pokemon here because it's a wide guard Pokemon. It's got a signature protecting move in Baneful Bunker, so basically anything that goes for a contact move into that gets poisoned. This thing also had Rocky Helmet, so honestly, Corydon's not doing much to, opposing Corydon are not doing much to Toxapex either. It's also got the Regenerator ability, so it can switch out, get back HP. Like, Michael was really cooking with this team, and honestly, I think it is really cool. But the main thing is I mainly just wanted to talk about Rhydon because, honestly, Eviolite Rhydon is really spicy. Because the other thing, too, is this thing is one of the original 151 Pokemon. It got an evolution in Generation 4 in Rhyperior, and Rhydon basically just showed that it is the superior Rhino here to Rhyperior. And part of that is also because of the Eviolite item, giving it a 50% boost to its defense and its special defense. Rhydon has really good physical stats. It's got a base 105 HP, 130 attack, and 120 defense. Now, it's got base 45 special defense, which is a little bit concerning, but that Eviolite gives it a 50% boost to both its physical and special defense right there. So it doesn't look as bad as it initially seems for the special defense, and plus, with just no investment, it's already sitting at 140 with perfect IVs on that defense stat. So, it's already sitting at 210, which means it can go places and do things. I know I'm not exactly the most well versed in dialogue at the moment right now, but I literally just finished 11-hour shift and I decided, let's talk about the Pokemon. But anyways, the other thing too about Michael Zhang's Rhydon here is it has high horsepower, Rock Slide, and Sword Stance, as well as Protect. So Rhydon doesn't really have to worry too much about the likes of Urshifu here, especially in Michael's team composition. Like, Corydon naturally sets the sun, so if Rhydon terrestrializes away from its 4x water weakness, Surging Strikes is not really going to do a whole lot to Rhydon, and Tera Fairy also resists close combat, and it also resists single strikes, two main stabs in dark and fighting. So really, Wake of Blow is doing nothing to this thing, especially with that Eviolite powering it up. And on top of that, neither is close combat. Single strike also doesn't really have much ground to damage Rhydon with Sucker Punch, which is nice. And like I mentioned about Raging Bolt too, like Thunderclap is not doing anything to it either because of Lightningrod. So really, Rhydon is a really cool Pokemon, and I think it definitely has some potential. So let's jump right back into the showdown window and talk about a few things that I think is notable for running Rhydon in general if you wanted to experiment with it yourself. So a few main points here is because Rhydon does get access to Sword Stance, if you wanted to, you could EV it more for defensive EVs. Like you could invest more into your HP, physical defense, and special defense while using Sword Stance to augment that attack stat and make up for it. But if you didn't want to do that and you just want to play full defensive, this thing does get Iron Defense as well. So Iron Defense is a really notable move too, because you can either go +2 attack with Sword Stance, or you could go +2 with Iron Defense, and that can change how you EV this thing. Like you might want to EV into your defense and potentially run body press because this thing does get body press. But even if you just want to be bulky in general and take advantage of the fact that you do have that Eviolite going, well, you could just become incredibly bulky, get your defense up, and then have the body press damage, or you could just go for damage and Sword Stance stuff as well. So you could potentially do something like that at the end of the day. Now, some notable moves that Rhydon does get in general: you do get high horsepower, which is great single target ground type stab. So you could have that, or if you wanted to, you could run Earthquake and just have a strong hitting spread option. Rock Slide is nice because it's reliable, consistent rock type damage. That's also a spread move. If you're in a situation where Trick Room goes up, well, Rock Slide can make your opponents likely flinch because it is a 30% chance to flinch. And honestly, yeah, like I am still kind of reeling from that Dunsparce that I ran up against with my Kyogre team, where they had 60% chance to make me flinch. So yeah, Rock Slide flinches are a thing. It's also been a huge meme in the VGC scene for a very, very long time. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But maybe you don't want to run Rock Slide. Maybe you want to run a single target move, whereas you have that Earthquake. You could run Stone Edge if you wanted to trade accuracy for raw power here. Like you can have a base 100 rock type option there with Stone Edge, and also you do have a boosted critical hit rate. So like you could have something like that. Like because Urshifu's kind of in a weird situation right now with the format. A lot of things are running screens, so even just having that boosted chance of getting a crit to bypass screens, that can always be nice too. It's a weird situation that's currently happening with Urshifu because there's a lot of things that give Urshifu trouble, so people are opting for other options like, say, Iron Hands, and therefore in response, others are throwing up Light Screen and Reflect, which now you don't have that guaranteed crit to bypass, like with Surging Strikes and Wicked Blow if you're running something like Iron Hands. So now you need to figure out a way to bypass those screens. So even just having the off chance of being able to land a crit, you have that. As I mentioned with Sword Stance 2, you can raise your attack by 2 stages, so there is that. So yeah, you do have the ability to raise your attack 2 stages with Sword Stance, and like I mentioned, that can free up some EVs. Like maybe you want to invest more into your defense, and then that way too. Like maybe you just go for like say an Adamant Nature, just you're sitting at 165, and then you invest more into your defenses. Like maybe you go up to 156 EVs into your defense to hit 160. Maybe you go up to about like maybe 88 with 180 and just dump the rest into your HP right there, like hit 202. Maybe you do something like that, and then maybe you just start clicking the Sword Stance to raise up that attack like 165 times 2. Yeah, you're looking pretty good right about there. And with that increase in attack, you can jump from that 165 to like you jump to 330. So yeah, you can jump up to 330 attack with just one Sword Stance with just an Adamant Nature right there. So that's pretty impressive. And on top of that too, just with this 160 that we currently have, giving yourself a 50% boost thanks to the Eviolite, well, you're jumping up to 240 defense. Like you're pretty bulky at that point. And then even for your special defense at 88, well, you're jumping up to over 120, so you're going to be jumping up from 88 to 132. Now, that is still a little bit on the glacier side, special defense-wise, because it's under 150. But if you have Light Screen up or even Aurora Veil, like, now you're getting somewhere on the special bulk. Like, Rhydon has the potential to be insanely bulky. Now, Some other notable moves too to keep in mind with Rhydon is you do get the iron defense, so you can raise your defense up 2 stages. You can go body press and use that defense stat to calculate your damage. And having fighting coverage is not a bad thing either. Like, this could be a great way of getting around Incineroar. Since you're holding the Eviolite, you can't hold a clear amulet on Rhydon, so being able to use that body press to bypass the intimidate attack drop, like you could do that too, like have that body press and do some massive damage to Incineroar that way. As far as some coverage options go, you can go for Poison Jab. And as I mentioned about Miraidon and Raging Bolt, they both like to run Tera Fairy, so maybe you might be taking some fairy type damage. You can punish them that way with that Poison Jab and just go for some super effective damage. Like, it might not be necessarily be the hardest hitting, but if you have Poison Jab and Sword Stance, you can raise that attack stat up and then go for the Poison Jab, do some massive damage to things. And now you could be potentially getting somewhere there as far as punishing opposing fairy Pokemon. So that's definitely an option. Now, another thing you could do too as a coverage option is you could actually run Supercell Slam, which this can be used to punish water type Pokemon. Like, maybe you're running up against, say, a Pokemon that wants to terastallize and become a water type. Well, now you can hit him with that Supercell Slam. You have that base 100 power, and so long as you don't miss, like, you're doing a lot of damage. And if I remember right, I don't think Rhydon gets Wild Charge. Yeah, no, it's definitely a straight upgrade to Thunder Punch. Now, you're going up 25 base power right there, but you do run the risk of taking massive recoil damage. But again, you don't get access to Wild Charge here, so honestly, like Supercell Slam could be nice. Now, if you got Wild Charge, I mean, Rhydon does have the Rocket ability, so like it doesn't take recoil damage, which honestly that could, in this particular case, I would say Wild Charge might be a little bit better, but I don't know. I feel like the Lightningrod is definitely worth it. So I mean, if you're not mitigating the recoil damage, I mean, you might as well try the Supercell Slam. And the other thing too is Miraidon is such a prevalent Pokemon. Like, electric terrain is going to be up and about, so like it doesn't hurt to have access to that boosted damage from the electric terrain and just kind of flip something on your opponent's head. So you do have that. I wonder, just out of curiosity. No, it doesn't get Steel Roller. I was kind of hoping Steel Roller would have been there because that would have been hilarious to have as a means of anti-terrain, but alas, it does not get Steel Roller. But that said, covering another coverage move here, and this one being a spread option, Breaking Swipe. It's not the strongest hitting move by any means, but it is a guaranteed debuff to the attack stat when it makes contact. And with Swords Dance powering up Rhydon's attack, I mean, it's not the worst thing either at the end of the day. It's a spread move that has a guaranteed attack drop right there. So that's another option to consider for Rhydon. Now, to move on to some notable status moves instead, Rhydon gets access to Helping Hand, so if you wanted to go a little bit more of a supportive role right here, you could give your partner Pokemon a 50% boost to the attack they're going for. So you do have that. Instead of Swords Dance or Iron Defense, another alternative could be Curse. So while you'll make yourself slower by lowering your speed 1 stage, so long as you're not a Tera Ghost in Rhydon's case, you do gain a +1 to both your attack and defense. It's essentially bulk up but better because you're getting slower, and then that way if you're playing in Trick Room, now Rhydon can really start underspeeding things to begin with. And that's something I want to point out too. Rhydon's only base 40 speed. You naturally outspeed Calyrex Ice Rider, Ursaluna, and Iron Hands in Trick Room when you have 0 IVs into your speed as well as a hindering nature. Like, without a hindering nature right here, you're already at 45. If you switch this to a brave nature, just to get that negative nature onto your speed, you're capping out at 40. You go for a curse, you get slower. Now you're outspeeding Amoonguss and Torkoal. Let that sink in. You are outspeeding two of the absolute slowest Pokemon ever and moving before them in Trick Room. And then you can hit them with a Rock Slide to potentially make them flinch. Like, Spore's not a problem if Amoonguss flinches, and Eruption ain't a problem if Torkoal takes damage first. So there is that. So just keep that in mind. And then another thing to keep in mind as far as a status move goes, Rhydon can also learn Roar. So Rhydon can phase out your opponents. Maybe you're worried about them setting up in front of it. Maybe you're worried that your opponent might snowball and get set up really quickly. Well, you can click Roar and phase them out. And remember what I said about Ice Rider being faster than this thing? On the off chance Ice Rider gains an attack boost because it takes out Rhydon's partner with Glacial Lance, it gets that attack boost, and Rhydon could just roar it away, undo that attack stat, and now Ice Rider has to come back in and eventually just try to get more damage. And as far as negative priority goes, Roar actually has a higher speed tier than Trick Room. So if you're worried about your opponent trying to set up Trick Room in the first place, Rhydon just says, no, get off the field. It just roars them away before they can do anything. Like normally, Roar and Whirlwind are like two of the slowest moves to happen, but Trick Room is even slower. So like you can actually outspeed stuff with Roar and Whirlwind, which is just fun. That's one of my favorite little things of trivia right here is Roar being -6 speed while Trick Room is -7. So like you could have Roar right there to just phase some things away. So that could be really good support. But going back to what Michael Zhang had high horsepower and Rock Slide, and honestly, I think these are both really good moves to consider with Rhydon right here, since you have that spread option with the Rock Slide and the Flinch for Trick Room, which honestly, that can potentially deter Trick Room users at that point. And high horsepower is some reliable single target ground type damage that can't be blocked by Wide Guard. So if your opponent's playing, like, say, something like Miraidon and Lunala can't save the Miraidon from high horsepower, whereas it can save it from Earthquake. So there is that. And if you get that sword stance up, well, you're just doing a lot of damage over time. Like, it does not take much investment to go from there. So I thought like it would be kind of a good idea to kind of just show where some speed, or not speed, some EV points go, like for some benchmarks. So this first one I have here with 228 HP, you hit 209, which is relatively nice. You hit 100 special defense points with a beneficial nature and 204 EVs right here, which does leave some EVs open. So if you wanted to, you could just invest the rest of that into your physical defense to hit 150. And at 76 points into your defense, you're basically tying up Rhydon's attack and defense stat right there. So depending on what you want to do, whether you want to run Iron Defense or Swords Dance, you can go from there. But just remember, you're holding the Eviolite right here, so that special defense is actually at 150, and that defense is getting an extra 75 points, meaning it's actually sitting at 225. So yeah, sword stance plus damaging moves, that seems like a pretty solid option right there. And another thing too is I feel like this is a really obvious one, but Rhyhorn does get Mega Horn as well, which is a base 120 physical bug type attack. So like you could punish psychic type Pokemon for some massive damage if you connect the Mega Horn. Same with dark type Pokemon and grass, like Rhyhorn or Rhydon. I'm hoping I haven't been calling it Rhyhorn this entire time, but if not, I'm going to acknowledge it now. Again, very tired. Worked a 11-hour shift. But anyways, Rhydon can do a lot of damage to grass types, which it really doesn't appreciate with Mega Horn. So, like, if you have a means of blocking priority, like Rillaboom Fake Out is not going to be doing your opponent any favors, especially if you switch in, like, say, a Farigiraf and then just go for the Mega Horn and just hope you don't miss and just go for that massive damage. But I mean, Mega Horn off of Rhydon is gonna hurt at the end of the day, especially after a Sword Stance or Curse Boost. So like you do have that. So like that could be some fun spice right there. And now back to some other points right here. If you didn't want to run all of your EVs into your defenses and you want to run some attack instead, just leave that 140 as is and just go into your attack. That 76 is going to take you up to 160, which is relatively nice. You're only 5 points off from where an Adamant or Brave Nature would have gotten you on Rhydon with that 130. Now, if you just wanted to run some special defense and not go for all of it, like maybe you just want to stop at 90 and you just wanted to go more into your attack right here, you can hit 177 attack points with 84 EVs. Or if you want to invest more into your HP and just max that out, you cap out at 212. So Rhydon can get really bulky with that HP. Working with the boosted defenses, maybe you only want to go to 88 on your special defense at 180, and then maybe just invest into your attack and then maybe your defense as well. The problem here is Rhydon's a little bit tricky in this particular sense because if you want to optimize your if you want to optimize your EVs, well, its special attack and speed are both so bad that trying to run some other stuff like, yeah, like you might have to run an extra point into your speed just to make sure you don't waste it. But like, I mean, 142, 174, like that's not too bad for defense and attack right there, especially if you're running like say Curse and getting bulkier, but it does lead to an awkward dynamic for the speed. So like you could get away with just not running the 4 EVs and just saying, you know what, I don't need them. So like you could do that, but I don't know. Part of me feels like you should run the 4 EVs, but I mean, it's up to you at the end of the day. But yeah, I think Rhydon has a lot of potential. Like, again, just it finished on a team that placed in the top 32 of the Milwauke Regional, which was the first regional to use the Regulation I format. And I think Rhydon is a really impressive Pokemon at the end of the day. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it in the future because honestly, anything that can give Miraidon some trouble is A-okay in my book. Unless I'm using Miraidon, then I don't want to see a Rhydon ever. But be sure to let me know what you think of Rhydon down in the comments below. If you have tried it while experimenting for Regulation I would love to hear your experiences on it as well. Anyways, I will see you guys next time.